A very warm welcome, everybody. My name is Adam Hamadache. I'm really excited to share my new content, which is all about why AI recommends some hotels and ignores others. On every slide, if you've ever seen some of my webinars, you'll know that there is a QR code that is going to give you access to a whole load of stuff, including special prompts that you can use, access to the slides, and some other bits and pieces that will tell you how to go about things next if you want to go to that next step. So a little bit about me. Where's my clicker? There we go. So if you've not come across me before, I run Formula. Formula is a digital marketing agency specifically for hotels. We've worked across the world with big brands like you can see on hotel group, Hard Rock Hotels, Gemini. We even do some work with the UK Hospitality Association. And really for the last 14 years, we've helped drive growth. But importantly, over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, we've helped some of these brands become the brand that gets recommended by AI. I also speak a lot across the world, including stages in North America, Europe, and the UK, all about this subject, about how do we stay abreast of this huge search behavior change. So my big sort of assertion, should we call it, for you today is to consider the fact that search behavior has changed more in the last 18 months than in the previous 18 years. We're going through unprecedented change when it comes to how customers are finding and discovering hotels, but frankly, anything on the internet. And I would also urge you to consider that the window for taking action is closing. We have seen, just in 2026 alone, unprecedented speed of change. We were all expecting some big things to happen 27, 28. Some of those big things have already happened in 2026. So if you're not investing in getting recommended by AI, if you're not investing in your overall digital visibility, the window is closing, because those brands that are going to get left behind, is my belief, because of how fast things are moving. So I have a big question today to encourage everybody to think about. What does AI think it knows about your hotel? Just think about that for a second, because I think most of what we do is about trying to train AI, or indeed trying to make sure that we become discoverable. But a big point of today is thinking about, what does AI think it knows about your hotel? So my hope for today is that I'm going to give you kind of 4 key points. I'm going to help you see what AI sees. I'm going to help you understand why it recommends the brands that it does. I'm going to help you identify the missing signals, and I'm going to give you a sort of a roadmap for what to do next. So I've broken my session down into 4 sections. The first is called the AI search shift. I'm going to give you a quick summary and update of all the developments that I think you need to know in terms of how your business is being affected by the changing search environment. I'm going to introduce you to the rise of the AI shadow, as we like to call it. This concept that we have this new digital brand or digital asset that effectively has so much influence over whether or not we get the sale. I'm going to talk to you about a whole section about how AI actually decides who to recommend, which is really kind of the topic of today's webinar. And I'm also going to lean in a bit into structured data. I get it, structured data, schema markup, this type of coding on the website is often overlooked. It's not a particularly sexy subject, especially for those that are not particularly technically minded. I'm going to break it down. What is it? Why is it so important? And why have I dedicated a whole section to this webinar today? I'm not going to teach you how to code today, but I am going to teach you the fundamentals that you need to be aware of so that you can be thinking about this in your own businesses. So let's get started then. The AI search shift today is all about the biggest disruption I believe that marketing is seeing for a generation. So I have 7 shifts to talk to you about today, and I think the most obvious one, as I think we're all aware of, is that ChatGPT has grown at historic speed. It hit 100 million weekly active users within 2 months. We're now somewhere around 900 million weekly active users. And if we compare that with what it's managed to achieve in comparison to the internet, which achieved that in 10 years, and Google, which achieved it in about 12 and a half years, ChatGPT has done that within 3.3 years. So it shows the pace at things of how things are moving so swiftly. Shift number 2, as I'm sure you're well aware, is that travellers now expect AI assistance. And you might have seen my recent webinar on the different generations, and of course Gen Zs or Gen Zs are adopting this stuff a lot faster than the baby boomers. But here's a couple of stats from Booking.com's recent research, and it showed that 80% of travellers now want AI assistance during the booking journey, and there is a 4x demand for AI assisted travel planning. And that has increased since 2024. So look, we all know it's being used, customers want it, and it kind of makes sense because look, sifting through, looking for travel options is labour intensive. We need ways to make our buying behaviours as simplified as possible, especially when we live such busy lives. Shift 3 is that Google search has fundamentally changed. I think you'd struggle to have not seen the massive changes that have been undergoing on the page 1 of Google, which historically over the last 15, 20 years has been sort of the holy grail of marketing. Get on page 1 and generally you'll be doing well because you get the awareness, you get the visibility, and hopefully then you get the bookings. But the big change, I would suggest, over the last just coming up to 18 months is that 50% of all searches now feature AI overviews. And you can see from the diagram that I've included, or the screenshot that I've included, that AI overviews is the top bit. It's the AI sort of answer that features right at the very top, sometimes at the top, sometimes just below the ads, depending on the prompt or the search. Now 1 in 2 of those searches now feature AI overviews. And this is really significant because 60%, that's probably slightly higher. We've only got data from up to the back end of 2025. But basically 60% of all searches now end in 0 click. And that kind of makes sense because we're encouraged to dive deeper with AI mode, or indeed the answer is being provided for us. We don't need to crawl through 10, 15 different websites to get the answer that we needed. So big change in terms of Google search. OpenAI, obviously the company that owns ChatGPT, made a big shift direction about 6 months ago. It decided that being the world's biggest recommendation engine is actually a bigger opportunity than being the booking engine itself. So it trialed this idea of instant checkout, where it allowed certain users in the US to actually engage with the platform and transact whatever they were purchasing, whether it be shoes or a hotel. It has decided that providing the handoff model is a much better way of approaching it, because frankly, there's a whole load of headaches that come with owning the customer, refunds, problems, all this sort of thing. And actually, it would be far better to be recommending and handing off that booking. And so effectively, what is the impact for hotels on this particular change? Well, I think this is actually quite positive because there are direct booking apps that exist, like the Hotels Network, but this is still a relatively unproven concept. But fundamentally, we want to get people to our websites to encourage them to book direct. So that's a relatively good one. The next shift is that ChatGPT ads arrived in the US a few months ago. I think that happened around sort of February, March, and we got them in the UK in June. And they have reported already that ChatGPT ads grossed 100 million in ad revenue in the first 6 weeks after launch in the US. So not a small chunk of money. They are predicting, slightly ambitiously I have to say, but they're going to do 2.5 billion worth of ad revenue in this year alone. So they've got some way to go, albeit they think they're still sort of backing those numbers. And importantly, here's what I think is the biggest number. 100 billion in ad revenue by 2029. Now, this is important because that is an enormous amount of ad revenue that is potentially coming out of Meta, Facebook, out of Google and into a platform like ChatGPT. So what does that mean for hotels? I think this is positive. I think any new avenue that we can attract customers, certainly having sort of first mover advantage or being an early adopter can help. And also, in theory, if the ad revenue is being saturated across multiple platforms, that in theory should bring the cost per click down. So early days yet, but still something to be aware of. But I would encourage you to start trialing and testing ChatGPT ads now that they're available in the UK. Shift number 6 is Google's big announcement that it made about a couple of months ago now, and it described it as the biggest change to the Google search bar in 25 years. So what is this all about? Well, Google is transforming search from keywords to conversations. We kind of knew that. For those that live in the UK, or indeed, they probably run this ad campaign across globally, but they adopted that strapline, search like never before. And they're encouraging us not to search for hotels in London. They're encouraging us to search for, I'm looking for a hotel in London near Hyde Park, blah, 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 blah. So they're encouraging those really sort of long tail conversational prompts rather than traditional keyword searches. And Google is effectively moving from links to answers. So, historically, Google used to be some ads, some organic links, and a few other bits and pieces dotted in what we call SERP features, or search engine result page features. Now it's starting to completely transform the user interface of page one. So Google will effectively become far more agentic in its nature. So it's not just a case of, here's the options, go search the internet for what you want. It's starting to actually give you what you actually wanted, the underlying reason for the search. So Google will effectively start to complete tasks such as planning trips and making bookings if you've got all of those things enabled. So what is the impact for hotels? Well, I think it's a combination of negative and positive in this instance. There is going to be fewer opportunities to win traffic through traditional SEO, search engine optimization alone, but increasingly visibility will depend on AI confidence, not just rankings. And again, I did a whole webinar on these big changes that Google made. Go and check out my YouTube channel for that video, and you can see all of the changes in depth. The 7th big shift I want to share with you today is that ChatGPT Work just launched last month. So AI is effectively moving from answering questions to completing tasks. Now, obviously, the name itself suggests that it's designed for work, and of course it is, but I think the bigger opportunities here are when customers have a highly considered purchase, like I've prompted it with this one. Find and book a 3-night family break in the Cotswolds during October half term. We need an indoor pool, adjoining rooms, excellent food, somewhere genuinely good with children. Keep the total below £1,500. Now, previously, the chat version of that would have sort of quickly recommended a whole load of hotels and given you a few options. This one goes a bit further, so it can allow you to research, plan and complete multi-stage tasks across the connected apps, files and the web. So it, in theory, could compare properties, check prices and availability, build an itinerary and present bookable options. And over time, customers could delegate much of the travel research and booking journey to AI. So why I think this is so important is because this is as accessible an AI agent that I think there has ever been. To create meaningful agents, it can take some work depending on which platform you're using, whether it be Claude Code or ChatGPT or what have you. But now all of a sudden, you just toggle from chat to work. Make sure it's skilled up on a few things. Make sure you've got access to your Gmail or whatever it is, and all of a sudden things can be very, very doable, rather than sort of the barrier to entry for creating some of these agents, as it has historically been in the last 6-12 months. So, impact for hotels. I think it's both positive and negative. Customers may see only the number of hotels their agent recommends, and hotels must become both AI recommendable and AI bookable. So this, I think, is, again, the launch has sort of gone under the radar. I'm subscribed to every sort of update, and I only noticed it when it appeared in my ChatGPT. So it's not been hugely publicised, but as customers start to see the power of what it can do, they'll start to move away from using it in a work capacity and perhaps even using it for travel. So those are my big shifts. My big key takeaway for today, or at least for this section, is that how customers discover businesses is fundamentally changing at a frightening pace. And I think we can all appreciate the validity of that point. The whole AI is rapidly reshaping this whole idea of discovery, research, comparison, and booking behavior. So we've got to make sure that we are keeping abreast of this change. So that leads me to section 2, and I want to introduce you to the rise of the AI shadow. And AI is already forming an opinion about your hotel, whether you know it or not. So to explain this, I want to walk you through the 2 roles of digital marketing before AI. Let's sort of break it right down. What has it all been about before AI really got involved? And I think those 2 responsibilities fall neatly into these 2. Number 1, we need to build digital assets that inform, entice, and convert. It doesn't matter whether we're selling socks or hotel rooms. If we want to succeed on a digital landscape, we have to do that one thing. And that can take many different forms. So we design our websites, we curate our social media feeds, and we optimize our aggregator listings. And these are effectively digital assets that we build that hopefully will inform, entice, and convert. The next responsibility of digital marketing before AI got involved was simply to drive visibility and traffic to those assets. And very simply, we can do it in one of 2 ways. Organic, where we invest in SEO to drive visibility in search, and of course, social, where we grow our own following irrespective of channel. The other obvious way is to pay for it through a variety of different ads. And we can do, and effectively any sort of marketing strategy would typically have a bit of both, and you're investing in organic growth and you're paying for paid growth effectively. So, that is how digital marketing really, if you boil it right down, that's what you're left with. Those 2 things are what we're trying to do. So let me explain exactly why AI is shifting this. So if we look at breaking this down by, right, I'm a hotel, I want to target these particular types of people. How do I get people to my digital brand assets that I own? Well, we can target them based on behavior. So when any customer, when any person makes a branded search, that's obviously searching that includes your brand name, or indeed a non-branded search that describes your hotel, like hotels in London. What we're effectively doing is we're trying to turn up and we're trying to encourage people to come to our website. Very, very, very simple. But of course, there is a different type of intent and targeting. We can target based on demographic or geography. And we can tend to do that through a variety of means, but obviously Facebook, Instagram, these types of platforms are very good for that. So we can effectively target people as they're browsing through their social pages, as they're browsing across the internet, and we're either driving them to our social channel, one of our owned digital assets, or indeed back to our website to hopefully consider and make a purchase. Very, very simple. Digital marketing is simply those little green bit arrows, moving them from where they are to our assets. Now, AI gets involved here most predominantly, is effectively disrupting that whole process when people are making a branded search, searching about your business, or a non-branded search, making a search that describes your business. We used to be able to relatively easily get them to our website, but now AI is sort of disrupting that. And I want to introduce you to a new unowned digital asset, because previously when those searches would happen, we would either organically appear or we would pay through an ad platform to appear. But whether we do that, whether we do either, increasingly, customers are seeing what I call your AI shadow. It is for the first time a digital asset that we don't really own. We can only influence what it says. And so what is an AI shadow? Well, look at it like this. It's an interpretation of your brand. So a good way of thinking about it is to kind of you're kind of a mismatch, a boiling pot or a melting pot of your unique selling points of your property, your online reputation, and as if like an impartial critique, like a journalist came and gave a sort of an impartial review of the experience that you offer. And this AI shadow can take many different forms, of course, but the most common, I would assert, is these two. The first is the 1 to 2 sentence recommendation. And we're familiar with this because, as you can see, using the example of the Grand, this is effectively your meta description. If I can use my clever little point here, this little sentence here is effectively your meta description. And if you read through it, you can see that it's been very, very carefully crafted. The stay at the Grand York, the only 5-star hotel in York, perfect for romantic getaways and spa breaks. Explore our latest hotel deals in York today. So highly considered, all about driving the click from the search page to their website. With AI Shadow, this is very different. It's far more descriptive, it's far less salesy, it's far less enticing, the click. It just simply summarizes. So this 5-star Edwardian hotel is known for its luxurious rooms. You can tell that it's being written by a third party, not by the hotel itself. So you can read that and get a sense of the descriptive overview of the hotel. Now, the important point to make about this is that this is similar. These two sentences are similar, but you didn't write it. But increasingly, this is what the customer is seeing for the first time when they discover your business. The second, probably more damning version of your AI shadow is the pros and cons evaluation. And I'm sure you've done this using Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or whichever platform that you prefer. That business looks good, tell me more. Or what are the pros and cons of buying from this business? And so effectively you get this whole breakdown of pros and cons. And of course, the cons is the stuff that we look at. It's a bit like looking at TripAdvisor reviews. We ignore the 5 stars, but why the 1 stars? Are they valid? Are they credible? What was so bad with the experience that somebody deemed it a 1 star? So we go straight for the cons. And of course, this quickly becomes your gatekeeper content. So anything that it is effectively finding about you on the internet, largely driven by reviews, I have to say, it starts to feed in directly to the customer. And this is important because, of course, reviews have, negative reviews have always been on the internet since TripAdvisor began. But the problem is that few people start on TripAdvisor. They use reviews to sort of validate the decision to book or indeed discredit. But of course, now these cons, if you like, this negative sentiment is effectively appearing much earlier on in the journey. So it is this AI shadow is becoming your new first impression of your brand. And that's important because you don't own it, as opposed to previously where the first impression might have been that meta description or indeed the website or indeed your booking.com page. You can control all of that. You can't control your AI shadow. So the digital assets we've built, we've curated, we've optimized, we've spent a whole load of time working on. We've spent inordinate amounts of back and forward with key stakeholders within the business to get it absolutely right. Largely irrelevant if the customer doesn't go beyond your AI shadow. So I would assert for you today that how your business is described across the web matters more than where you rank or indeed how nice your website looks. And of course, you can see as a good example, a brilliant AI shadow for a hotel that I searched for in Greece, asking for where I can get the best moussaka in Athens, and beautiful, glowing, wonderful AI shadow. Couldn't find a negative bit about it. But of course, here are the two images that I've encircled that are drawn straight in from TripAdvisor. So even when it's positive, you don't get the glamorous, best possible view of the business that this particular restaurant intended. You still get what AI wants to show the customer when they've made that search. So here's my second key point of today. Digital marketing has two new growing responsibilities. Over the last couple of years, it's simply been build brand assets that inform, entice and convert, and of course drive visibility and traffic to those assets. In 2026, the first big new responsibility that we have is to, number one, get recommended by AI. The second is to influence. You cannot control, but you can influence what your AI shadow says about you. And of course, those other two still remain because we still need to do all of that stuff. We still need to build our assets that we do control. We still need to drive visibility and traffic to those assets. But increasingly, those two, I think, should sit at the top rather than being an afterthought. So that leads us to section 3, how AI actually decides who to recommend. So I'm going to talk you through the key distinctions between being ranked and being recommended. And I want to introduce you to a simple concept, which I like to refer to as the AI confidence model. Confidence in your business is everything. And we've created this framework called the CARBS Framework, which stands for customer clarity, authority mentions, reviews, brand consistency, and structured data. So customer clarity is simply, can AI immediately understand who you're for? Authority mentions, do trusted sources reinforce your credibility? Reviews, do customers consistently validate your experience? Brand consistency, does every source tell the same story? And structured data, can machines understand you without guessing? And we'll go into that in a bit more detail in due course. So it's a very simple kind of concept, this. AI doesn't search, it judges. It judges based on what it knows about you. So if you consider the traditional search format where customers search, they get a whole load of Google ranked websites, they compare and then they decide. Obviously, simplifying it hugely, but that is effectively what has been happening for the last 20 years in search. With the dawn of AI search, and again, I can't stress this enough, doesn't matter whether it be Google, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, the principle remains the same. The customer asks a question. AI evaluates hundreds of different signals, and AI decides which businesses it trusts, and then AI recommends based on its level of confidence in what you have in relation to the prompt or the search that was made by the customer. And so effectively, here's that word again, AI is looking for confidence. Every recommendation is a confidence calculation. It's looking at, can I understand this hotel? Can I trust this information? Is it relevant to the search that was made? Is it consistent? Can I verify it elsewhere? And that whole point about consistency, it's not just about having consistent name, address and phone number on business profile, on Bing Places, on Booking.com, on TripAdvisor. Of course, those are big ones that you have to get right, but it's across the internet. So for example, I did this quick test for a hotel the other day, and we found a whole load of different names. And I said, oh, did you used to be called that? It's like, oh yeah, that was like 6 years ago. And of course, some of these more obscure directory listings that don't carry much weight, but as soon as there's any sort of form of inconsistency, and those old directory listings haven't been updated, that again is reducing confidence in the business. So if that is you and you've changed business name or indeed phone number or whatever it is, making sure that that's in place is definitely worthwhile doing. So let's have a working example of this. I put into ChatGPT, recommend a luxury hotel in the Lake District with a spa, excellent food, dog-friendly rooms and good walking nearby. So Quite a few, 5 or 6 different sort of facets to this prompt. And it came up with 3 brilliant hotels, I have to say. I've been to them all. Gilpin Hotel and Lake House, another place, the lake, and Armathwaite Hall Hotel and Spa. Now, what it didn't recommend was a lovely property that I've been to, absolutely fabulous place, Appleby Manor Hotel and Garden Spa. And it begs the question, why these hotels and not Appleby? And of course, many others that, of course, would be relevant for all of those points, but just simply didn't get recommended. So why not Appleby, and why Gilpin, why another place, and why Armathwaite Hall? Well, let's first explore Appleby Manor. As I say, I've been there, it's a lovely place, you can see from the image, beautiful spa experience. And it is effectively a luxury hotel. It is in the Lake District. It has a spa on site. It has very strong food reviews. It has dog-friendly rooms, and it has excellent walking nearby. So why not be recommended? Well, I went into ChatGPT and I said, look, based on the CARBS framework, could you help me understand why you didn't recommend Appleby Manor? And it basically rated it, and it gave the Gilpin, another place, Armathwaite Hall, pretty much top marks for every single part, except for Appleby. It started ranking them in slightly lower. So it's sort of 3 were higher confidence, and Appleby Manor just had high confidence, but not as much as the others. So I wanted to go further and understand why AI omitted Appleby Manor, and just what are the scoring parameters. And so we broke that down, that prompt, and we said, okay, well, for luxury, it was present, but it was less externally reinforced, which is really interesting. So they've been obviously talking about the fact that they are a luxury property on their own brand assets, on their own website, but that hasn't been as widely externally reinforced. Spa was strong, no issues there. Excellent food, very strong. It's got AA Rosette Award. Dog-friendly rooms available, but limited and not prominently positioned. Now, I don't know where the AI in this instance found that, whether from its own website or from reviews, but that's certainly something to be aware of. Good walking nearby, present but less clearly productized. So again, I think you'd be hard stretched to find anywhere in the Lake District that didn't have great walking nearby, but clearly that's an area that they would need to focus on. In the Lake District, well, slight geographic ambiguity. This is Appleby Manor, I say, I've been there. It is bang in the heart of the Lake District, but apparently AI thinks there's certain ambiguity about where exactly it is located. Independent authority, it had a smaller digital footprint than the other hotels, and brand and entity clarity, it said there are more fragmented across sources. So you can see this is a really clear understanding of which areas this particular hotel needs to work on. So I encourage you within your own hotels to do this yourself, and I appreciate there's a lot going on in this slide. Use that QR code and you'll be able to get access to this whole prompt. I've created a prompt where you just simply customize the pink bits. So I want you to compare my hotel with 3 named competitors and assess how confident you would be recommending each hotel to a potential guest. And then you choose obviously your own name and website, choose 3 competitors and website, and you just insert a specific customer prompt like I've used in this Lake District example. Punch that into Gemini, ChatGPT, wherever, and it will break down exactly what it is that you need to do. So again, use that QR code and you'll be able to access the slides and all the resources available on that page. So my third key takeaway for today. Digital marketing in 2026 is increasingly about reducing ambiguity and improving AI's understanding of your business. And I can't stress that point enough. Ambiguity is what effectively will kill your business from being discovered. That's really where we need to be focused. So we've talked a lot today. There's been a lot of detail already. I'm now going to just lean in to structured data. That's the S in the CARBS framework. How machines understand your hotel and why I think it matters more than ever. So Why structured data is just so important? Well, you might have come across this idea of, or this concept of schema markup, and it's been around for a long time. It's a simple, frankly, way of coding the website so that machines, algorithms, they can more easily understand it. So if you consider that, if you look at my sort of little diagram on the screen, well, effectively your website is built for humans. We write for humans, and that makes sense because it's humans that are considering it. But schema is written for the machines, for the algorithms, for the large language models that are effectively crawling through or passing through your website at record speed to understand what you're about. And the more schema you've got, as long as it's valid, it reduces ambiguity and it creates more confidence. So schema doesn't guarantee that you're going to be recommended by AI. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that. But it will help AI understand your business, like the example of of Appleby Manor having some location ambiguity, even though that's about as concrete thing as you can get. So I would urge you to consider the big problem is that humans interpret and machines estimate. So to illustrate this, if we look at a simple thing that we might read on a hotel website. This hotel is perfect for couples looking for a relaxing coastal escape. And I'm sure we've written that kind of copy, or I'm sure we've read that kind of copy when we've been researching. And it's instantly understood by humans. The context is clearly filled in, and we feel the emotion. We understand what our own views of what a relaxing coastal escape and what a hotel perfect for couples might be. But AI must guess what these things mean. So does it mean it's a luxury hotel? Does it mean it's adults only? Does it mean it's beachfront? Because obviously not all coastal escapes could be right by the beach. Does it mean it's a romantic hotel? Does it have a spa? Is it 4- or 5-star hotels? These are the types of things that it has to assume or indeed guess what it thinks this particular hotel is just from this piece of copy. So humans naturally fill in the gap and AI has to estimate. And a good way of looking at this, maybe a better analogy to explain it, imagine applying for a mortgage. Well, application A says, I work with money, which is vague, unverifiable, and probably the mortgage lender or the bank would have very low confidence in being able to lend big sums of money to that person. But application B, exactly the same parameters, is a senior financial controller. They have a salary of $92,000. They are employed by XYZ Limited on a permanent role and have been employed for the last 8 years. That's so much more context to be able to approve that mortgage. So it's very structured, it's confident, and effectively gets approved. So AI works in very much the same way. It's no good just explaining what you do on your website copy. You have to structure it in a way that the machines can understand. So what actually is structured data? Well, it's simply code added to your website that tells machines exactly what something is. And here's the point. There is no interpretation needed. So we can put schema markup or structured data around our hotel, our offers, our events, our videos, our FAQs, our restaurants, our rooms, our reviews, our whole organization. These are all things that you can structure in the right way so that you're reducing ambiguity and you're reducing the amount of interpretation that's needed. And to give you a sort of a practical example, if you search for apple pie recipe, I found this great infographic on the internet. I thought it would be a great way of explaining it. You search for apple pie recipe and you'll see an image, you'll see the web page, you'll see the amount of reviews, all of these different things that you can see on the screen. But included in the green middle bit is the schema markup. So it allows all of this rich content to be presented in a way that humans can see and understand and machines can see and understand. So it's simply just structuring the page or structuring the web page in a way that can be read by the machines. So where does it come from? Well, simply 4 general ways. It could be created when you had your website built. You can add it in directly to the content management system. You can, if you use a platform like WordPress, then you can upload an SEO plugin and do it that way, or indeed you can work directly with a developer. And there are 3 general options in terms of how you get this structured data. So the first is CMS generated content management system. That's your WordPress, Joomla, whatever it is, however your website is built. It can be automatically applied directly into the CMS, and that's okay, but it can often be basic coverage or provide limited control. An SEO plugin like Yoast or Rank Math can be really, really good, and it can add schema across your website, and that's better, but it can still also be templated. Or of course you can go custom, which is built specifically for your business, property and audience, and that I would argue would be the strongest approach. So how do you know it's actually working? Well, there's some simple tests that you can use. The image that you can see on the screen here is the Google's rich results test. You can put in any URL and it will show if there is schema or structured data present, and indeed whether or not it has any sort of invalid items. You can use a tool called Schema Validator. There's within Google Search Console, you can go into enhancements, you can run a simple website audit, and you can ask AI about your hotel or compare answers before and after. I would say probably the easiest thing, just go into ChatGPT, and generally speaking, it can crawl your website and tell you what structured data items are needed or missing or invalid. So to summarize it all off, better understanding leads to better recommendations. You've got your website, make sure that it's structured. If it is structured in a way that machines can understand, that's going to lead to more confidence in understanding your business. Greater confidence leads to more recommendations. And I will leave you with this final analogy. We've had quite a few today. Think of it like an IKEA wardrobe. I think we've all been there at certain points in our lives. Without instructions, can you imagine putting one of those things up? You'd be confused, you'd make wrong assumptions, and you would waste an inordinate amount of time just trying to figure out which bit goes where. With the manual, it will be faster, there'll be fewer mistakes, and you'll have total confidence in your ability to do it and do it well first time. Schema markup or structured data is the IKEA wardrobe manual. It's going to give the machines that confidence to get it right first time and to feel that it can actively recommend you. So my 5 key takeaways for today. Search behavior has changed more in the last 18 months than in the previous 18 years. Digital marketing has 2 new responsibilities: get recommended by AI and influence what your AI shadow says about you. The CARBS Framework will help you achieve these 2 new responsibilities. That's customer clarity, authority mentions, reviews, brand consistency, and structured data. My 4th point, digital marketing 2026 is increasingly about reducing ambiguity and improving AI's understanding of your business. And finally, the less AI has to guess, the more likely it is to recommend. Use structured data across your entire website or where you can to reduce that ambiguity and increase confidence. I hope you found today useful. There are 2 ways to move forward. If you're wanting to really take action on all of these things today, I encourage you to use the QR code where you can download the slides. But also, if you want to go that bit further, we offer 2 ways. If you'd like to learn how to do this yourself, we've just created an AI visibility masterclass, and that is going to be priced at just £97. That's increasing to £197 from the 1st of September. So we've just produced this. My team have worked really, really hard on giving you the walkthrough guides, lots of videos that you can just work on at your own pace to be able to implement this within your own business. But we appreciate you might not want to do it yourself. You might want to bring in the experts and have us do it for you. So that's why we have what we call a digital tidy up, where we understand what's holding your business back. We make sure we've got total brand consistency across the internet, and we just fix the most obvious and deeply impacting, what I like to called visibility anchors that are sort of anchoring your recommendations from being surfaced by AI. So use that QR code and you can get access to all of the slides as well as that prompt, and indeed the two options if you want to move to the next phase. So as I say, the AI Visibility Masterclass, it's a brand new online course. You'll be able to log in, you'll be able to work at your own pace. My team will be on hand if you've got any questions, and we've got that launch offer and valid until the 1st of September, so it's only £97 until the 31st of August. The digital tidy up, as I kind of covered, is a 3 to 4 week project where we've got to do a whole detailed audit. We'll present that to you. We'll go away, do the work, and in 3 or 4 weeks you should see a significant jump in visibility just by fixing those things that are holding your business back. I hope you found today useful. Please do use that QR code if you'd like the slides or if you'd like any information on the things that I've talked about today. You can email me directly at Adam at thisisformula.com, or you can see our two websites, which is the agency of Formula, thisisformula.com, and if you'd like to have me bring me into your internal teams to train them on some of these topics that I've talked about, or indeed book me as a keynote speaker for your upcoming conference, go to adamhspeaks.com. Please do email me. I'll always respond as quickly as I can. I hope you found today useful, and I wish you every success in driving more visibility to your hotel. Thanks very much and all the best. Bye-bye.